Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Zelensky talks about the permission. 350 prisoners released. Kyiv celebrates birthday. 10th anniversary of Donetsk airport. Sunday thoughts. President Zelensky gave an interview to the New York Times and discussed current issues. Number one is, of course, the air defense of our cities. After yesterday's shelling of Kharkiv, I still feel bad at heart, and today there are already 15 dead and dozens of missing people. It's like a bad joke. Enemy planes can freely bomb you, but you cannot respond to them, and so not to break the rules. Let's watch a fragment of this interview. There are English subtitles, but they are not very accurate, so I'll comment on some points.
Далекобійність твоєї артилерії не відповідає стандартам російської. Снаряд далекобійний до сучасної артилерії, яка у нас в Україні, він був різний. 155-й калібр був і сильний, який бив 20 км плюс. Ми могли би добувати до ворога. Але сьогодні нам виділяється, якщо ми беремо, наприклад, 155-й артилерійський калібр, у нас немає далекобійного снаряду. Далекобійного 155-го у нас немає. Він у нас був. У перший рік війни ми їм били по ворогу на тимчасово окупованим територіям, і ми тоді не били по російській території. Але він був, і ви повинні зрозуміти, що його 1,5 роки в Україні немає. Ніякого далекобійного снаряду.
In this part, the president said that we do not have long-range artillery to reach Russian troops from a long distance.
То тут питання давайте розділимо на дві частини. Перше, далекобійність нашої зброї по тимчасово окупованим територіям. Там є дозвіл, скажімо так, але там немає снаряду.
As far as I remember, this is the first time the president openly mentions permission. Before it was only a theory. Probably partners did not want to advertise this condition.
Але там немає снаряду. І давайте візьмемо Росію. Ми не говоримо про цивільні міста, але як їм відповісти, коли вони б'ють по твоїх містах? І їх далекобійність така, тому що вони стоять тут, в найближчих селах до кордону України з Росії, звідти б'ють, знаючи, що ми бити не будемо, знаючи, що вони прикриваються цивільним населенням, бо розташування їх зброї серед цивільного населення Російської Федерації. Але вони спокійно на це йдуть, розуміючи, що наші партнери не дають нам дозвіл, як ви сказали.
Here he emphasizes that Russians place their artillery in border villages, realizing that they can shoot at us, but we cannot respond with Western weapons, ATACMS, HIMARS and others on their military targets, headquarters, troops locations, etc.
І тут, коли ми говоримо про ATACMS, ATACMS, або ми говоримо про HIMARS, іншої дистанції, іншої далекобійності хаймарсів, яких у нас також немає, так? Або ми говоримо про артилерійський снаряд, або ми говоримо про відповідні ракети, Storm Shadow, скальпи, тощо. Ми не маємо дозволу бити по території Російської Федерації, по їх військовим розташуванням, штабам тощо. Тому це була частина захисту.
Here he names the figure 100 kilometers to the border with Ukraine. From such a distance, Russian planes launch arrow bombs and remain out of reach. Then he says that we can either shoot down an incoming missile in the air or shoot down an airplane with the help of long-range weapons and with having a corresponding resolution.
Як нам захиститись від цих ударів? Тільки так. Це те саме, що ППО. Як нам захиститись від постійних ударів кабами, будь-якими ракетами, тощо з території Росії? За 100 кілометрів до точки в Україні або до кордону України вони б'ють ракетами з російської території. Як нам захиститись? Ми можемо бити або по ракеті, яка йде на територію України, або бити по літаку перед запуском. Бити по ракеті – це мати ППО. Бити по літаку – мати відповідну зброю. Зброю і досвід.
I know that before the start of full-scale war, we played the Minsk agreements for many years, and our artillerymen in Mariupol, who literally stood in the first line, were not allowed to respond to Russian artillery strikes. Moreover, they were even paid a bonus to their salary for not responding to the shelling, as not to escalate. How absurd is this? As the famous historian Timothy Snyder said, now we are somewhere in 1938 again, and Ukraine is delaying the start of a possible global war, and some countries are repeating this mantra. Putin has not attacked us, why attack Putin? 350 prisoners were released in order to serve in the Ukrainian army. At the moment, the government has already received 4,300 applications from those who want to defend their country and earn freedom. The Minister of Justice cited a figure of 10 to 20,000 potential candidates for participation in this program. In an interview, a military friend of mine said that he would take prisoners into his unit without any problems if there was such an opportunity. I remind you that unlike Russian program of recruiting prisoners into the army, where they are happy to take those convicted of serious crimes, in Ukraine it is prohibited to release people who were imprisoned for crimes against state security, the intentional murder of more than one person, sexual violence, corruption crimes, and some other special cases. Again, look, we're trying to play by the rules. It is important for Ukraine that the civilized world accepts us. All our actions are under supervision of not only the enemy but also our allies. Today, Kyiv celebrates 1,542 years since its founding. I would really like to tell you more about this, but I don't know enough about the history of this city. There are 1,000-year-old churches here. I have been to the catacombs where monks keep their ancient relics of saints. Here, according to legend, Prince Vladimir the Great baptized Rus, and from here Christianity spread to the entire empire of Rus. The expression Kyiv, the mother of Russian cities, still exists. There is a wordplay here. Kievan Rus is foundation in Russian originally meant belonging to Kievan Rus. Nobody said Muscovite Rus or any other Rus. There was and is only one, Kievan Rus. It is a part of the world history. It is so strange to see how Putin in his delirium says that, what, Lenin invented Ukraine. How is this possible? Just imagine that it's not Putin who says this, but just your 70-year-old neighbor. Obviously, you would think that he had already gone crazy. But Putin has a platform and cameras and attention of the whole world, and he says it and everyone is forced to listen. I didn't like Kyiv before, it was too big and noisy for me. There are more than 3 million people here. When I came from Mariupol, it seemed to me that Kyiv was infinitely big. Now it's the other way around. I have been living here for more than 6 years, and now I can call this place home because I have no other home left. This is so strange. Now I love Kyiv and I feel very good here. 2 days before the start of the full-scale invasion, I had the opportunity to fly abroad to visit friends, and I realized that I didn't want to go anywhere. I'm home. If you're interested, I will leave a link to a course by American historian Timothy Snyder about the history of modern Ukraine and its origins of Kievan Rus. This is a huge material, but very interesting. Today is the 10th anniversary of the start of fighting for Donetsk airport. On this day, pro-Russian militants began armed seizure of the building, and this is considered the point of the beginning of the armed confrontation between the Ukrainian army and pro-Russian terrorists in Donbass. It was a new airport. At the start of the war, it was only 2 years old, and it was built for the European Football Championship in 2012. It's hard to imagine now, but people from all over the world flew to Donetsk for the football championship. I wonder how the Donetsk residents feel about it, and watch how the city turned into what it has become in 10 years. I know what I'm talking about. My relatives live in Donetsk, and many friends left the city in 2014. The last time I flew from this airport was just before the war started. I had return tickets to the same airport, but when I had to return home, it was already closed forever and then completely destroyed. Today, many people published an old tweet from the official profile of Donetsk airport. It looks like this. Attention, from 7 o'clock, Donetsk airport temporarily suspends flight services. The resumption of work will be announced later. In the comments, people write, "We are still waiting and we will wait as long as necessary." It is so sad, but yeah, we're still waiting. It can't be any other way. I will leave a link to this tweet below this video. My Sunday thoughts. If we could evaluate every Russian terrorist attack according to the law and subtract the cost of destruction, reparations and payments to the families of the victims from Russian assets that are frozen in the West, I'm talking about those $300 billion, then maybe this would force Putin think about the effectiveness of his attacks. Did you blow up Tripoli thermal power plant? This will be $2 billion for restoration and compensation for damage. You blew up a dam in Kherson region, flooded the entire region, destroyed the ecosystem and deprived us of a power plant? It will cost you $5 billion. Your aero bomb killed 16 people in Kharkiv and destroyed a mall? That will be $500 million. I understand that this sounds like a fantasy because our partners are guided primarily by their bureaucracy and do not want to make sudden moves. But I'll say, maybe it's time to make an exception. Putin doesn't care about your work, your reputation, and Russians are openly discussing on their propaganda TV how they would destroy Berlin, London, Washington. They just can't do it yet. I heard an interesting saying, the Russian peace ends where you can get punched in the face. Remember your bullies at school. Once you hit them back, they won't touch you anymore. It's all for today. Russian missiles were flying at us at night. I didn't sleep since 2 a.m. until 4 a.m. Then all day we watched Kharkiv recover from yesterday's terrible attacks, and yes, Russians bombed Kharkiv again. Kyiv formally celebrates the day of the city, but to be honest, the mood is not festive. Since the beginning of the war, I have stopped going to places of entertainment. I can't even think about it. I want to be optimistic, but that's not always possible. This was my update on the Russian-Ukrainian war for the day number 823. Thanks for watching and take care.